Hey guys, in this video I'd like to go over how to use the shop press. We're going to go over some safety items and then we're going to talk about how we can push parts on or push them off. To begin with, I'm just going to go over how it operates, how to adjust the bridge up and down using the cable system, and then how to move all the pins around, okay? Okay, so this video is going to be very difficult because this item is very big. To try to show you everything is going to be tough for me. So the first few of the safety items that I want to point out, the main one I guess is this guard right here. And all you have to do is push it up and then throw these little latches down and it should catch. This way, if you're pressing something and it wants to fly out at you, it stops it. Now I want you to notice these are some pretty big holes, and if you catch a piece of metal and kind of get it to splinter off, it could come out of there pretty fast. You want to make sure you are wearing your eye protection and you are just being very careful. So we're going to go ahead and drop this down. Another thing I want to point out is this up here is movable. It slides about a foot to a foot and a half from side to side. So if you get a part in here and it's not perfectly lined up, you don't need to move the whole part, just move the cylinder. If you can look, I'll show you a shot up in here, and the cylinder is just mounted on some wheels. All right, so this is our pumping mechanism. Right here, we have our on-off valve. This is literally will hold the pressure inside of it, or if you loosen it up, it'll let the pressure dissipate. So if we were gonna be pumping it, we would wanna make sure this was closed, and then if we were gonna go ahead and let the pressure out of that cylinder, we would just crack it open and let it flow out. Next thing we have, this is our, I believe it's an air dryer or a filter that is hooked to our foot pedal. Our foot pedal right here, this would be hooked to an air source. As of right now, we don't have this hooked up, we just don't have an air hose that goes this far. But we still use it, but we use it in manual. How it works is you take your bar, this one should be always round, and we're just gonna pump it. And we're gonna see that our cylinder is moving. On this side here, we have all of their different size punches, or I guess pressing tools. Some of them are just big faces, so if we wanted to press maybe a big pin out or something like that. Other ones are pretty small, so if we had to like take a roll pin out or something that was pretty precision, we could do it. I probably would stick to using this one. This is a pretty good size, or even maybe this one right here, okay? And I'm gonna show you in a second that they just pop in and out, but for now, notice, I just want you to know it's on the left side of the machine. Make sure you're using the right size, okay? If we shift the camera up, we can see this massive crank here. It kind of looks like one that might be on your boat trailer or something like that. What this does is it raises and lowers this cross member right here. So that means if we needed to press something that was a lot bigger, we could actually give it the depth. And you notice all these pins and all these pin holes. You notice all these pins. These can be adjusted around so that way you can pin it in one location and move it around. Remember, the pins are what do most of the holding. These pins are what holds that cross member in, not this cable right here. You'll easily break the cable just barely pressing on it. It does not have nearly the amount of holding power as these pins do. All right, so let's go over how to raise and lower it. So we're just gonna go ahead and spin it. And what we're gonna see is as we start taking the weight off it, this pin now is easy to move. You can also see that this whole section right here now slides around. So I'm going to go ahead and move it away so you can see a little better. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually work on just dropping this whole framework down here, this cross member, down a couple pins, okay? First thing we want to do is there's some keeper pins on the back side. They look like this. Pull them out, that way you can actually get the pins out of the way. Next, we've already taken the pressure off of this cross beam, so we're going to go ahead and slide our pins out, and I'm going to drop it down pretty low. We're just going to have them held right there for now. I think we're down about here. So right now, everything's being held on those cables. Remember, those cables cannot take any weight, so we want to make sure we're not pressing on those. And we're just going to slowly start bringing it down. When you're getting close to being where the pins are, make sure that they're slid out a little bit so that they don't land on those keepers. Just keep going. Remember, now you can see there's no weight on my cables. So if I wouldn't needed to put something in here to make to press it, I can now drop it way down to do that, okay? Now we're gonna bring ours back up and we're gonna press on some bearings so I can kind of show you how it all works on a piece of equipment. And I'll just go ahead and fast forward through that process so you can kind of see it again. Again, all I'm gonna do is take the winch, raise it up, and then repin it, okay? Make sure you put these keeper pins back in before you do anything, okay? So now you correctly know how to move the cylinder around. You know how to raise and lower this, this bridge. You know where to find all the tools on the side. You know how to actually get the pump to work, but I want to actually do some pressing so that way you can see everything. Again, remember, make sure there's no pressure on this, on that cable. That one can get broken really easy. I think that's the most common thing that's probably broken in the shop. So let me grab a shaft and some bearings, and I'm gonna show you how to do this. I'm gonna show you guys how to press this bearing on and then press it back off. But what I wanna do really quick before I get started on that is I wanna show you how to change the tools out. Remember I was saying they could just pop in and out? So if it has this brass looking collar, you can just take it, it's got a detent in the side of all of these. They just go in and they just pop in there and now they're held tight, okay? And then you're done with them, you just pull them back out. For this particular activity, I'm just gonna use the flat one because I have this little pressing tool that will apply pressure to the outside race, and it'll sit right on this outside race. It'll sit right there. That way it can be pressed onto the shaft. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna walk through that process. I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna put my pressing tool in there. I'm going to get my parts. Okay, I'm just gonna double check everything before I actually start pressing it. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna start just pushing it on. And you can see that my bearing is already moving. If I'm pressing something on and it doesn't immediately start moving, you might back it off and make sure that this tool is not making contact with an unmovable surface, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and press this thing on. With a bearing, you wanna stop, back it off. After you get it started, let it set. It'll kind of self-align itself and then go back in and finish pressing it. That one's pretty easy. All right, so we'll go ahead, back this off. And as you can see, the bearing is now on the shaft. Okay, so we're gonna walk through the process of taking one of these things off just because there's some other little tips that we can get out of that. First thing is we're going to try to make sure we're pressing against the back side of the bearing, again on that inner race, not on the outer race. All right, so this is a bearing splitter and I'm going to show you how to use it. Remember that when you're putting one of these on, this flat side, not this tapered side here, needs to go against the bearing. So we're going to put it on over the top and then we're going to press it out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hold this thing loosely tight. We don't want this thing to be so tight that it actually grinds into the surface of our shaft. And we're just going to hand tight these bolts. So now we got our puller on. Notice it's not super tight. It can easily be moved back and forth. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start pressing this guy out. All we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to pull our blocks here apart. We're actually going to hang this thing on the blocks. So now you can see I have the shaft is actually hanging out the bottom and we're going to press against this top, okay? Now, one thing that we're going to do is we're going to need to bring up this thing so that we can put our hand underneath. That way, when the shaft pushes through, we can catch it. We don't want that stuff to be falling over. We're going to go ahead and we're going to change to one of these. We're going to go ahead and start the process of pushing this guy out. And then you can see that the shaft is moving and not the bearing. I'm just pressing it out. Comes all the way out. All right, you can see that it fell out the bottom, but I caught it, so no harm, no foul. All right, so that's a very quick explanation on how to use our shop press. If you guys have any questions, please come grab me. I'd love to show you one-on-one.